Peace. This is a meat and potato sorcery production starring myself, the Water Alchemist, and today's topic for the occult family is organized chaos. Why some of the movements in the 60s failed. When I mean organized chaos, one thing that people have to know, especially those that haven't studied the civil rights or black power movement from an unbiased standpoint, we've always proven as people of color that we can come together. We can come together for an agenda or to accomplish a goal. But one of the things that happened and why certain movements had failed, personality conflicts, sexual politics not valuing the role of women and their contributions in movements, as well as removing the spiritual component and the occult and not understanding especially that when any power structure is threatened, all rules go out the window. Now, let's talk about when there was a shift with the civil rights movement and then black power started to come into its own in 1966. When this had happened, Martin Luther King was like a veteran, maybe 10 years. And you have to understand something. He was born in 1929. Now you have a set of young people who were born in their late 30s or the early 40s, and they had saw firsthand and experienced how marching wasn't getting it done. They had seen this. This was the case with a lot of people, and basically Martin Luther King Jr. was an ideological relic. He was a dinosaur now. Malcolm X was dead. So who came into play? You had the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and they got tired of John Lewis, and they brought in Stokely Carmichael at that time, or Kwame Ture. And then after him, H. Rap Brown or Jamil Alameen. Now, this is what I want to say about that. There was a merger between SNCC and the Black Panthers, and some of the most notable members of SNCC had joined the Black Panthers. One big failure of the Panthers, and they should have learned this from SNCC, and Kwame Ture had mentioned it in his book, Ready for the Revolution. The problem with the Black Panthers is that they grew too quickly. And many chapters that they got, you got to remember, Huey P. Newton got locked up in 1967 in October for shooting Officer John Frey. And he didn't get released until August 1970. So chapters were springing out everywhere. And then you have to know cities, and this is where the occultism comes in with a city. Oakland didn't have the same level of consciousness that New York did, whether it was Brooklyn and especially Harlem. Harlem is a magical city. So you had chapters springing up there. Philadelphia. Detroit has a history of nationalism. You had a Black Panther Party chapter there. And this should have been studied a little bit more because the birthplace of the Nation of Islam is Detroit. It's not Chicago. They had relocated to Chicago, but the birthplace is Detroit. And a good documentary to see is All Power to the People, 1996. And the Panthers had started dealing with something they didn't even understand. MarxistLeninism and socialism. Socialism hasn't worked nowhere where it's been applied. The closest maybe is Cuba. And even Cuba didn't totally remove occultism because Fidel Castro was dealing with Santeria. He just didn't want nobody else to really deal with it. But he was dealing with Santeria. And here are the Panthers. They going by Mao. They didn't understand Mao was a despot and a butcher. And there's a good book to read to show you how if they would have embraced black nationalism at that time, and especially had respect for the occult, the Panthers would have went far. And the most important thing, they were too youth oriented. They didn't have the veterans that SNCC had. They didn't have an Ella Baker. They didn't have a Bob Moses. They didn't have James Foreman came along, but him and Eldridge Cleaver fell out and he left. So with all this that took place, there's a book, Shadow of a Panther. And some people have some problems with the author, Hugh Pearson. But there was a chapter, a section of the book, where someone was offering to do tarot readings. She was a Black Panther member, rank and file, but a Black Panther meeting. Huey Newton, remember, Huey's father was a minister. So even Huey, although he wasn't a practicing Christian, he still had an Abrahamic mind state. So he saw what was going on. He said, you know what your future holds for you? And he savagely beat the woman. That's what Huey P. Newton did. Now, this is something that we can learn from the American Indian movement. They got the idea for their organization in 1968 with one of its founders, Dennis Banks, about forming an organization for Native people here to take a revolutionary stance against colonizers in the United States. But the thing that the American Indian movement didn't do, they didn't remove spirituality. They didn't do what the Panthers did, or on another level, fight, with us, the organization us. And it doesn't mean United Slaves. It means fighting for us as opposed to them. And you can get more information about that for Fighting for Us by author and UCLA professor Scott Brown. So the resources out there. But the best book is Agents of Repression that talked about the Panthers and the American Indian movement, That's by Ward Churchill. So you can't remove spirituality from this war. The revolutionary stance you take, that's only the outer face or the vanguard. But any movement that doesn't have the occult as its center, it will fail. The 60s proved that already. It will fail, period, point blank. Look at what's going on now. Many of the people that are witnessing, and they want young people to do it that way, but you're not going to win the war with personalities on the internet. You ain't winning no war against colonizers, against rapists. You have to come together and suppress your ego, have the occult, because now this is an occult battle. So all this marching and Black Lives Matter or White Lives Matter, you gonna get your feelings hurt. This is an occult battle. One of the people that made sure that Donald Trump got elected was Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon deals with chaos magic. And you can read a book by Gary Lockman, Dark Star, that details that. Trump just covered all bases, and he added the occult as the last piece. This is an occult battle. Don't let nobody fool you. And Kathleen Cleaver, who was the Secretary of Communications and also the former wife of Eldridge Cleaver, the Minister of Information, she said something. When we were organizing in the Black community, we didn't know that the government was going to strike like they did. Because what Lyndon Johnson allowed, Richard Nixon wasn't having none of that. And he shut it down. Either you won't get killed or you were going to get locked up. And by the time you came out from prison, if you were lucky, Good Times was on and black exploitation movies was running the show. So you got to have the occult as the face, as the head of the monster. So with that, that is your meat and potato sorcery for the day. I am the Water Alchemist. Be water, my friends. Peace.